Good afternoon, everybody. This is Rich Peterson. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Rich Peterson. I'm with Allen Interactions, and I will be your webinar host today to get things started. We're going to be broadcasting the global onboarding for multi-level marketing. This was originally recorded in the beginning of 2019. Steve Lee, who is a co-founder for Allen Interactions and studio executive, will be presenting this webinar. It's about an hour long. I will be on chat for any of you who have questions, either here or who are viewing us from the YouTube. So with no further ado, I will get this recording started and hope you enjoy.
Simonson. I'm the marketing manager here at Allen Interactions. I'll be monitoring and responding to your questions during the broadcast. Our host today is Allen Interactions co-founder and studio executive, Steve Lee. That's all I have. Steve, you're on.
Thank you very much, Hillary, and thank you everyone for joining today. We're going to be covering a case study for Mary Kay Cosmetics, who came to us with a need to improve their on.
Simonson. I'm the marketing manager here at Allen Interactions. I'll be monitoring and responding to your questions during the broadcast. Our host today is Allen Interactions co-founder and studio executive, Steve Lee. That's all I have. Steve, you're on.
Thank you very much, Hillary, and thank you everyone for joining today. We're going to be covering a case study for Mary Kay Cosmetics, who came to us with a need to improve their onboarding training for their global sales force. They call them the Volunteer Army. And similar to many multi-level marketing companies, Mary Kay Cosmetics, some of their army is there to become rich and be a millionaire and perhaps have a large number of people working along with them, and other people do it sort of from a hobby standpoint or a discount standpoint, or just want to do it to supplement income a little bit, which makes it challenging. How do you come up with learning that all different levels of learners, all different levels of engagement with your company would not only be interested in taking your learning, but would gain the skills and the competencies that you're looking for, and they would find value to actually take the learning and more importantly, complete the learning. We found a lot of companies in this market have developed full comprehensive training programs, but a lot of times the people that they're hoping will take it perhaps start it, get partial way through it, and never really complete it. So today, what we're going to be talking about is our case study with Mary Kay Cosmetics. And what we were able to put together and the results. And then we'll kind of go through step by step from the types of needs we feel that the entire industry, and not just multi-level marketing companies, but any company with distributed and very diverse sales force. So for Mary Kay, they had created Mary Kay University, and in a very traditional fashion, they had a number of courses. Some were e-learning courses, some were instructor-led or video instructor-led, like we're doing this webinar. And they had them segmented for products, for sales, for inventory, for networking. And there was quite a bit of material, and they were finding that their workforce just wasn't completing all the courseware, and they were finding some lack of skills and lack of competencies out there in the workforce is being reported back by their supervisors. So we wanted to create something that was a lot more engaging, something that was very intuitive, that didn't take a whole lot of facilitation, and something that would be a true just in time, when they needed it, learning application as well as serve as performance support. So they could go back to this whenever they needed to get some additional information, maybe get some refresher training. What we also wanted to do, if you're looking on my screen at our fully blended solution, is beyond just the e-learning modules, Mary Kay had created, I think, hundreds, if not thousands of hours of motivational videos. And, they were trying to get people to watch them. And they were kind of putting them out in a more passive modality where they're asking people, you need to watch these and they'll be great. And there's just so many of them. They wanted a way to tie in these wonderful videos they had built with something more practical, something that was more valuable to their learners. So we found a way to tie those videos in, and we'll be showing you how we did it. We also found a way to tie in some social learning and collaborating with other salespeople and mentors, gurus, managers, and supervisors. And we're able to get some facilitated conversations going back and forth and integrated job aids. So this application could both be used as initial training, just-in-time training, and a resource for their international beauty consultants to go back to. And it turned out that they had over 3.2 million engagements, 35 countries, every language. And this was delivered on PCs, laptops, tablets, and even phones. And they had a significant increase in the completion rates, I think from around 20% to over 80% of their beauty consultants going from the beginning to the end of the program. And we created some technologies to make it very easy for Mary Kay's internal learning and development staff to create lessons, to update the current ones, and to maintain them, because things change. Their products change many times a year. They might even change their sales process. And we wanted to build something that they weren't tied to and didn't have to have any type of a shelf life. So we want to do is kind of go through that in a way that's very generic as to what we feel were the components that made this successful, that hopefully the people here on this call can take back with you, look at the kind of training you're doing and see if any of these techniques and technologies will help with what you're trying to solve. All right, so for us, what were the kind of problems that we saw that existed for Mary Kay that we feel exist in the industry as a whole? And we found that their specific training approach lacked a focused set of multidimensional and accessible content. So I'll kind of take it backwards. One, they wanted to be sure this content could be delivered via all mobile devices, but they also wanted learners to be able to get to a specific piece of content, whether it be learning or resources, with no more than 2 to 3 clicks. They also wanted something that didn't just focus on e-learning. E-learning is great for some things, but they knew there's time for personal connections, social learning. Maybe there's still a need for some group training events where people can collaborate with each other. So that was something that was lacking. And being focused, they were asking everyone to take all of their training. And there wasn't an easy way to tailor it down, focus to the needs of the learner, both from what they feel they should be learning, as well as how much they currently know and how much they need to know. And build in a way where they were really engaged, that once they started, they felt that they wanted to keep going and complete, because they felt that they could take the knowledge and the skills and tie it directly to their job. They didn't have something that was adaptive. They could learn from the learner and provide them what was next based on their needs, instead of going through a more traditional curriculum approach. And whenever their current course would need to be updated, they either had to have people on staff that knew the authoring tools, or they had to hire an external consultant like us to make changes, and those kind of changes could take weeks and months. So those are the types of problems we were trying to solve. And in trying to solve these problems, we wanted to be sure that we didn't just stick to one method of delivering learning. This graphic is just to illustrate that there's a lot of different ways to solve learning needs. And e-learning is in here, games and gamification, instructor-led, simulations, social learning. They're kind of broken into the categories you can see around the outside. So we wanted to make sure that we were using all the modalities that would be effective, not too many, and not trying to pretend that all these problems were nails and we could just use an e-learning hammer to solve them all, because we found that doesn't completely work. So the solution to trying to create something that was focused and was accessible is we created different types of activities. Sometimes we used interactive multimedia motion graphics to get some points across. We did find a way to put in their video and tie assessments directly to the hundreds or thousands of hours of video they had. There were times we just needed to do a presentation, some traditional overviews with, paging back and forth. We also found the ability to do scavenger hunts. Sometimes in the market, there seems to be a perception that the younger generation doesn't read as well as previous generations, or they don't have the desire to, they don't just read book after book after book. But we found that they are really skilled at finding and searching information. So with the Mary Kay, instead of converting all of the content into some form of learning, we're able to keep it in its PDF or website format and provide challenges to the learners so they could go off and find the answers and then come back and solve the problems they're given, which is more like the real world. That also provided training on how valuable these resources that exist are and trying to modify the behavior from, well, I should know it all and I'm just going to read everything I can and I'm not going to feel confident until it's all in my mind, versus, I know where to find it, I can do it quickly, especially when that content changes often. We also wanted to create learning around a strategy. And for Mary Kay, the strategy was to grow people who thought they just want to do it part-time, to see the value of taking the next step. So in the learning, we wanted to make sure we not only train them on how to do their job with the specific niche they had chosen, but the advantages of moving up to the next step and the next step, and that it was something that they could learn about and successfully perform if they chose to take that next step. We had to do a lot of role plays and finding ways of teaching human interactions. Of course, one of the big roles in these types of companies, and any, is selling. So not just product knowledge, but understanding people, having a sales process, as well as being able to interact with others to get them to join in, to be part of the organization. There's a whole lot of process and procedures, step-by-step training, might be some software. There might be some things of prioritization. So we wanted to create some activities that are very traditional: ordering, sorting, matching. And then sometimes we actually need to build some simulations of, maybe putting, for Mary Kay, makeup on someone, or trying to put together an order to meet needs and simulating the software required for that. And then putting in the assessment so they can get all this data and giving them a repository for the resources. So we knew we needed all those types of activities, but we wanted to make sure that they were all short. All these activities take no more than 8 to 10 minutes. And we try to keep each of them to be no more than 5 minutes. So they could be on the go. They might be going out to an appointment or getting ready to do some kind of an event, and they could go in and take them as a refresher and kind of pick and choose. So what we'll be showing you today is how we're able to condense all of this learning that goes over a 90-day learning cycle down to very small, digestible, bite-sized components. And we made sure that with the curriculum being a lot of these individual events, that people could pick and choose what kind of skills they wanted. We could actually monitor their progress and how they're doing, and dynamically change what we've decided to present to these learners. And as we talked about, this is working in, I think in 35 countries with all the languages that are native and running on PCs, laptops, tablets, as well as phones. All right. So before I move on to some of the concepts we want to use to make sure that we dealt with their engagement and making sure the people that were taking it kind of pulled in, drawn in. Any questions on what I've discussed so far, or any things you want to make sure that we cover in this talk? Kind of hot buttons for you and your company. So if you have those, please post them. And I know Hillary and Rich Peterson is on the phone as well. We'll be monitoring. So if you have any questions, just take some time now and we'll do our best to address those.
Steve, there's a few questions that you're probably going to interweave in here as far as the
Sure.
authoring tool used, the software used, being adaptive, responsive, and LMS. And I know all that is part of, LMS is a big part of the Mary Kay solution.
Sure, well, we'll take care of those now. The talk itself was meant to be tool agnostic and LMS agnostic, but it's not bad to discuss from a high level what we did. What was interesting is when we started working with Mary Kay, they had spent a good deal of time trying to find the right learning management system and just got frustrated. They were very frustrated because of the lack of meaningful data that comes from SCORM. Yes, they started it, they completed it, and if you have a quiz or a test, what did they get? But they wanted a much deeper level. How long did they take in some of these activities? And not just the entire lesson, but very specific challenges and questions. You know, the trend data, how many tries they took. A lot of people call that item analysis data. So Mary Kay had purchased a website content management system, and they wanted us to create these micro lessons, these modules that could be uploaded into a standard HTML framework. And they could use Google Analytics to determine all of these data requirements. Did they get to this question? How long were they there? If they got it right, they went to a page that gave them correct feedback. They could track all of the choices and run those through all the reports they wanted. So we, because of that, built this using HTML5. That way we could create things that would port directly into a website. And then after they did that, they decided they actually wanted a learning management system, but they didn't want to buy one off the shelf. So we created a very basic learning management system for them. Then we created a front end, a portal page that I'll show you. It was very pleasing, very intuitive, and that portal page would take a request from a learner and send a message to the LMS we built, or any learning management system for that standpoint. Please launch this course, and when they're done, close it down and tell the portal page what the progress was. So you can see for any module what they'd started and completed, and see that on that one page. So we went with a very LMS agnostic approach that said you could load your courses in an LMS or have them sitting on a web server, and created a very appealing portal screen. So users could select, and that portal screen could adapt to only give the modules that we wanted to deliver to the student. We previously had used Flash in prior engagements with Mary Kay Cosmetics. You know, we have done very similar approaches in tools like Storyline and Captivate, but going with the HTML tool, we were able to create an editor, because though Mary Kay had a learning and development department with people that knew tools like Storyline, we wanted to allow people who didn't know these tools, didn't have to have a license for them, to make changes. No different than if you're managing a website through a company like GoDaddy and they give you a form and you can change things and hit a button, it all uploads and updates. So the technology we used for this was HTML5, and we created a nice front-end portal to talk to their LMS, which could have been any. So hopefully that answered that question. All right, so what we wanted to do is create some real motivational components to the solution. to pique the interest and gain some desire and show the value. We also wanted to create that portal I was talking about to be fully adaptive, that would change the flow of courses based on progression or escalation, meaning if they were struggling, more learning would populate that they could take. And if they were moving quickly, we might skip them ahead. To go beyond it, we allowed them to create a profile for themselves. And then we gave them courseware based on that profile, which they at any time could change. And we also wanted to build some learning where they could simulate what they would actually do out there in the real world and let them practice until they felt they mastered it. And then they felt, wow, this is exactly what I need to be doing on the job. I didn't just read a lot of content and answer a multiple choice question quiz. And we found that it went viral, that they were saying, oh, you got to take this training. This is great. And, you know, that word of mouth really helped. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over and show some of the Mary Kay and then kind of bounce back and forth between the slides and the application. So Rich, tell me when you can see the Mary Kay application on my screen, please.
You are good. Sorry, it took me a while to unmute.
So this was, oh, that's okay. So this was the portal that we created, and we actually just found this nice little carousel logic free out on the web. And we thought this would be a great way to show all of the courseware. Now this one goes all the way through from the very beginning to someone that is given an entire region. You know, this is as high level as you can get. So when it starts out, you know, they're kind of given the access to every single thing they want to do from the welcome on. We also want to do was get away from the siloed curriculum approach. This is inventory, and this is product knowledge, and this is customer service, and say, what do you do the first hour of being a Mary Kay beauty consultant? What do you do in the first day? What do you do in the first week? And it almost is like your planner through your first 30, 60, or 90 days, depending what level you want to engage with the company. So there's a welcome that it was a video that just kind of says, you know, thank you for coming, and you can watch that. And they will send you a kit in the mail. So once you get the kit in the mail, it wants you to come here and launch it and walk you through the kit. So it says that I'm 0% complete, so I know I haven't even started this yet, and I'll go ahead and click on it. Now they wanted this to look exactly like their webpage. In fact, people go to the Mary Kay webpage as an independent beauty consultant, log in, click the Mary Kay University link, and it looks like they just went to another page. They have no idea there's a learning management system or even care what that would be. It's very non-traditional. So they pick it, and then from here they can either click down to scroll, they can scroll on the side here, or they could pick on the top to go to the intro and some of the other, we call them lessons in this module. They also wanted to put all these videos, and they have just the most amazing library of Super Bowl quality videos. So the first thing they wanted to do was to kind of introduce you to starting as a beauty consultant, what's in the kit, walk you through how to use it, and set up for the rest of the training in this module. I'm going to come off of speaker for a second so you can hear. Hold on. Are you hearing that, Rich?
I would love to give you a gift, but it's not possible to put that into a form that I can have. And it's only available to those who will accept it and take it to your heart. And I hope that you will be one of those who will accept the gift that I want you to have this morning.
I'm going to skip ahead a bit to the part where it's kind of discussing this module that you're about to take.
To stop you from dreaming your dreams, and only you to possess and to reach and choose to live by. So my hat is off to you for making my impossible dream come true. Congratulations! You've taken the hardest step in your Mary Kay business, the first one. In this curriculum, you'll learn the keys to help you open your business with excitement, passion, and momentum. You'll discover your why. Write your I story. And get to know the product in your starter kit. You'll also learn to craft your unique business plan that lets you run your Mary Kay business your way. Let's get started.
Okay, let me switch back over to my headset. All right,
Hey,
Rich,
Steve.
can you hear me? Yes.
Brian Patrick is wondering if this is a responsive or if you use Bootstrap.
Well, it's the same. Well, those are not mutually exclusive. So let's get out of here. So if I drop this down and squeeze it down, it is actually fully responsive for phone. Once we get to the phone, we end up having a hamburger menu that we can use and scroll here or use these. So it is fully responsive, but we did use Angular and Bootstrap. So those are not mutually exclusive. So it's build once and deploy anywhere, which made it very helpful. So we didn't have to create different versions. With some tools like Captivate, you're having to create a different version for each modality, or you just scale. And with here, this is the same technology as a website. So it does have a fully responsive design behind it. So hopefully that answers the question. All right, so I'll go back up here. We'll go and explore your why. So now we're talking about the adaptive nature. Whenever someone comes in, we start asking them questions such as, building a financially responsible life for myself and my family will provide me with the opportunities, choice, and sense of commitment. Some people would say no. Some people would say yes. And then you can go on to the next question. Investing in other women, helping them become all they can be, say yes. Having more flexibility, maybe no. No, I'll just answer some of these questions randomly. And once you finish them, they have, as I was saying, a large library of video testimonials of other beauty consultants that had the same needs, the same starting point as you did. And now you can watch their story from beginning to end, the before, the after, and you could even connect with them if you wanted to. After you've done that, they have you start to begin the creation of your before story. What did you do before starting your Mary Kay business? And, you can add some things in and submit. Go to the next one. Why did you start your Mary Kay business? This becomes part of that story, and later they have the ability to record either through the laptop or your phone and be able to upload videos of yourself. And that becomes part of the social network where you can connect with others. After you've done that, they then have the video where they show you step by step how to unpack your starter kit, how to set it up and do a little practice. And then the next thing is creating your business plan. Because there's a lot of tools that Mary Kay has created that can help, from online ordering, personal website, inventory management, and they want to ask you, why are you here? At what level do you want to be? So if you want to know if learning and wisdom from other consultants is important and you say yes, then they have this tool called Learning and Growing, and you could launch out to it if you want. Go on to the next question. Do you want to have products on hand for immediate sale and delivery? And if you say yes, then they've got this Ready, Set, Sell tool that you could go learn more about. If you go through all of these questions, then it will populate all of the things that you said you wanted and have a price associated. And then you can pick and choose which ones you're willing to invest in now, perhaps later. But on any of these, you could click, and then they have a video about it, or you could go directly to the website to get some training or to set it up. So these two sections where they're getting all this data is serving to adapt the training to your choices. So if you want to have a very small, focused business plan, you won't get all the modules that are there to start with. And you are asked, as you go through the training, to come back and perhaps modify your business plan if you want to expand. So that gives you an idea of that very first module of the getting started. And it really was set up to be, when you get this kit in the mail, this is what you're supposed to be doing on day one. And then there are these nice motivational videos in between steps to keep you coming back. And then they go into the golden rule of customer service. Then your next step for Mary Kay is you need to find customers and hostesses. So they train you on how to do it. And then they say, now go off and make some of these calls. You come back, you log what's worked, what hasn't worked. You can get additional help, watch examples, get scripts. And all of this data is being sent to whoever your direct supervisor, manager is, and they are able to see all the data of what you put in for your profile, your business plan, what you're struggling with, what you've accessed, and then they can be alerted that they should set up a meeting and call you. So, what all that is getting to is the idea. Let me bring the PowerPoint back up. So you saw, hopefully, the motivational components. We made sure to have those intro videos at the beginning of every module. We have some in between where we found that some of the beauty consultants might be struggling or aren't sure if they can take the next step. We ordered it to make sure that it is meaningful on hour one, day one, week one, month one. So they are going through the training and then immediately using the skills. And then they can come back and get more training. Once they feel comfortable, then we move them on to the next level. Starting off with unpacking your kit, finding hostesses and parties. We then get into presenting the party, closing the sales, fulfilling orders. So it is not meant for someone to sit down and take this all at once and then go out and try. It's meant to be some training, some real world practice, and connections with peers as well as management to help you through. And what we're hoping is as you complete each section, and I didn't yet show you some of the role plays and the practical e-learning, that you really feel that the time that you spent worked, especially if you then go out and try it with actual customers and come back and have all that social interaction. We found that the Mary Kay independent beauty consultants are bragging about the lesson, and they're telling stories to their peers saying, oh, you really need to go in, you really need to take the learning. And that word of mouth helping to go viral is why we had over an 80% engagement and completion level.
Steve, there's a question: is the cost to the learner on this? Are they charging for the course, or how do the learners or members get the course?
They aren't charging for the course. It's part of the initial sign up, which I think is in the hundreds of dollars, but they all get access to the course. So they're not doing it as a revenue generation, because what they found is that they're having less drop off of people who stop ordering and selling. They're having an increased level of people wanting to then grow their team underneath them. So all of their business drivers have been positively influenced through this engaging learning. So they're not using it as a method to generate revenue, because they're finding that it's increasing revenue in others. But it could be, could easily have a front end where you have to pay. Now, what they are doing though, is if you don't complete whatever you've been assigned in 90 days, then all of your progress goes away and you have to start over again. So they're incenting people to get it done in 90 days, which they thought they had to as sort of a carrot and stick. But they had such a small number of people that didn't finish it in 90 days that they didn't have to use that very often. So hopefully that answers your question from a revenue generation standpoint. But it would be easy to put some kind of an e-commerce subscription model around this. They were charging for all those other tools that I had shown, between the inventory management, your own personal web page. So they were generating more revenue based on having that survey of what are you wanting to do with your business? What are your needs? What are your goals? Tying in, these are the products, and letting them pick and choose in a shopping cart. They found that they have dramatically increased the revenue they're getting from their add-ons, because the the beauty consultants are seeing direct value in what they would use them for. And as the training progresses, we reintroduce the tools on inventory. We talk about inventory management. When we get to fulfilling products, we reintroduce the fulfillment programs. We'll talk about customer service, your own personal website. So even if they don't choose them at the beginning, we go back and we say, you know, this could really help. Would you consider maybe, you know, modifying your business plan or adding this into your kit? So they have multiple points throughout this 90 days, and they're building up the add-on tools. So it's another way they're making money. So we think that we have dramatically increased the engagement, you know, from the design, you know, both from, you know, the ordering of it, making it just in time. And when I jump back in, I'll show you some of the resources we have. But providing that perceived value that if you take a little bit of training and you then try it out, you can go back and forth and connect with others. You know, they really saw the value of the training and helping them get through their first few months on the job. And they did have incentive programs. You know, they had gating, which they didn't want you moving on to one of the future modules until you complete them. They didn't say you can't do module 2 till you complete module 1, but perhaps step 7 you can't take until you've completed 1 through 6. And those videos kind of went viral internally, and they posted them on a video sharing site called, I think it's Brightcove. It's similar to YouTube, but more for business. And they were sending people links and emails to those videos to get them excited on, oh, wow, this is what I would learn in this step. I definitely want to go and take it. And so, you know, those we call the carousel, the album covers, would change dynamically based on their needs from the business plan, their progress, if they were doing well or they were struggling, or, you know, by choice, they could say, I want to get to the next level of training, or they could just choose to only click on the steps or the lessons within the steps that they wanted. So we made it completely open and flexible for navigation, as I said, within the first 6 steps. And then beyond those, there was some gating that went on.
Hey, Steve, we have a couple more questions.
Sure.
I have from Brian Patrick. He says, since it's web page like, is this researchable? So could someone out on a call put in something like close a sale and then pull up the content? And then
Yeah.
Julia is asking for the video site.
Right. Well, the video site, I think, is Brightcove. That's, you know, it's like a professional version of YouTube. I'd say it's as LinkedIn is to Facebook, Brightcove is to YouTube. But it streams, it makes sure it figures out the internet connection speed of the person's machine. So it does all those wonderful compressions like YouTube does, but it's more for business and, you know, priced such. And you can put, you know, HTML code around your videos to make them more dynamic, where YouTube, you know, they don't want people spamming, and there's a whole YouTube API. And believe me, we've built some things in YouTube and get very challenging to do things that are true learning, but Brightcove allows you to do all of that stuff. And the first question again, Hillary, or did I answer both of them?
I'm sorry, the first question was, is this a searchable web page? So if someone out on a call put in something like close a sale, could they pull up this content?
Yes, they do have a page where they could say closing the sale, and, you know, it would bring them to whichever steps and you could launch them. So if I go back to here and, you know, let's say I'm doing like how to book an appointment. So if they were to search for it, it would, you know, bring them here, and then all these are searchable of booking it, objections, you know, so if you're trying to overcome objections, Mary Kay has something they called CARE, which they said always check and make sure you understand the objection, acknowledge the objection, respond with an honest response, and then wait. You know, silence is good, wait for a response. And then they can pick an objection, and these objections can be created at any time. So they get changed, they get added, some get removed. So you might say, well, I don't wear makeup. Okay, great. So if you don't wear makeup, then sorry, Cindy, but I don't wear makeup. So then you have to decide, how would I respond? You could say, is it because you're allergic to makeup or because you don't like to wear it? Or I did notice that you don't wear makeup, or so you just like the natural look, correct? And you're trying to go, let me try, so you just like the natural look, correct? And she comes up and now she's smiling, yes, I do. Okay, great. So would you like to enhance your natural beauty? You probably just haven't found the right brand of products yet, or I see, you actually look great without makeup. Let's be complimentary and say this. And, you know, she's real well. She says, yeah, thanks. It's very kind of you to say, but now she's not going to buy anything. You just reinforce the fact that she looks great without. We'll go back and we try again. And it might be, so you like the natural look? And then we move on and say, well, would you like to enhance your natural features? And you go, no, thanks. I don't like the way makeup feels my skin. So there is a correct path that if you follow the CARE, you will get to the right answer. And then you can go in and you could say, well, I want to try something different, like I don't have any money. And then you can go through these. When you get to the practice makes perfect, then this is where they give you resources such as the CARE formula for overcoming objections. And this is a PDF, it's a reader. So you can print it, you can download it, you can zoom in on it, scroll through it. They have videos. Well, what do? I want to watch a video on objection. I don't wear makeup. And then you can click and watch that video. So all of that additional information, we did not take it and build page after page of e-learning on all of this. We gave them problems to solve, a little bit of hint, and we put all the resources here in their native format that they can watch and read and use. So they could search to get the particular topic, which we tried in these steps to tie them, but these titles are also searchable, and everyone has a practice makes progress. That's all the resources. And then we have one page where all the resources from all the sections exist. And then we have an assessment. So it's sort of like a survey monkey. We ask them a number of different types of questions, and then we can record that. So that's how most of these steps work. So hopefully that answered that question as well. All right, so let me go back to my presentation deck. And so as we were saying with those whys, that we were, you know, the setting of the paths and providing value, and they actually use this for coaching and mentoring because you can connect with other Mary Kay beauty consultants that have succeeded and are doing well as providing information to a coach or a manager to help you through. Now, they did have a need for very cost-effective creation, delivery, and maintenance. So for us, for this particular client, you know, as I had said earlier, we had looked at continuing to build in tools like Storyline or Captivate, but they had a limited number of people that had the licenses and the ability to change it. So we decided, regardless of what tool, we wanted to standardize the lesson structure, which we showed you in the idea of having the steps. Within each step, there were what we called lessons. We'd always have an introduction, teach them skills, have some version of a practice, have a resources repository, and then an assessment. We then created templates for all the different types of activities we could come up with that could be reused across this full curriculum. We wanted to make sure that those custom interactions, those templates would run on every device. And then we wanted to take all the content and logic and put it somewhere that would be very easy for the Mary Kay internal people to work with. So I'm going to jump over and show you what that would look like. Let me pull this over. So this was a format that Mary Kay liked. It doesn't always have to look this way, but we are working on some new courseware for their directors, the people who have gotten to that higher level. And, you know, we might have philosophies and principles is a module. So if we were to click on the launch button, then we can take a look at what that module looks like. Now, this has a different look where instead of across the top, it has a more traditional menu on the side. We might go to principles of leadership and excellence, you know, and here it might be we want to look at inspiration in the videos. This is just sort of a video chooser. We have the resources section and the assessments. But if Mary Kay wants to build or modify, maintain, which they do, all we did was set up the structures for them, and their internal people are developing all the content. They can go into this button, which is Edit Sheet. And what they liked was kind of an Excel spreadsheet version. So here, do you want to show a splash screen? What did you want the color to be? The section titles. So the titles we saw across the top are philosophies, module, this would be the main title, the tab title, the headers, which sheet, what name on this spreadsheet do they tie to? And then if we get into something like the overview, this is just some simple text. And then Mary Kay, My Way. Here's all the content that exists inside. If there's any logic, questions, assessments, that's all here. So they could change what the questions are, what the answers are, what the correct answers were, even weight the scoring, what the distractors are, what the feedback would be, whether it be generic or specific. If they made any changes, all they would need to do is come back here and just click Publish, refresh their screen, and all the changes are there. If they want to download something to put on a learning management system, they click this button, and a SCORM package gets downloaded to their downloads folder. And if they wanted to put in sounds, video, graphics, PDFs, any kind of media, they just click here and drag and drop, and it will pop into it. So with Mary Kay, we work with them to figure out what types of activities they needed, and then train them on how to use these spreadsheets, which they preferred. And they are creating all of their content internally. We're just there for any layout or structural changes. But being we built this all in HTML5, you could get someone coming out of the technical school or someone that's really good with HTML5 on their own to be able to make changes to it. So we got away from the need of needing to purchase, license an authoring tool, or being restricted to only developers that know the tools. And that's what worked for Mary Kay. We have been able to use the same approach with quite a few clients, and they all seem to really appreciate the ability to have a methodology and a design technology where they can control their own content, even if they don't want to get into one of the e-learning development tools that are on the market. So at a very high level, that's what we had provided. And Mary Kay has been able to, create like this the first curriculum they did, which was for the independent beauty consultants. As large of a curriculum as that was, it only took about 3 months to put together. And since then, they've created lessons on their skincare products for, the directors, and they continue to create more and more of this content. And they know that the delivery design and technology is working well. They're using the same methodology of the structure of the lessons, and they no longer have to concern themselves with engagement and completion of their audience. And they can take all of their existing assets, their videos, their PDFs, any scripts that they have, and just integrate them directly in.
Hey, Steve,
Any questions?
We have a
Sure.
question from Kelly. She is wondering if we can see the first slide with all the different types of content again, and how many of those
Sure.
they actually incorporate into their final learning program.
Okay, let me back up. Actually, in the learning program, I put that up because they incorporated all of them. So the interactive motion graphics, they have some where, it's like a whiteboard video or, icons that aren't, production quality video. They are using the video player, and some where they're using assessment capabilities. They might be watching a demonstration of how to conduct a party or how to apply makeup, and they can stop it and say, I think that was a problem, and take little snapshots of it. we have some page turning presentational overviews. In fact, in some of these, we let them create their own presentation as a pitch. So we give them some slides and they can pick and choose which slides they want to use, and they can actually record themselves practicing. The scavenger hunts we have, all of these is in there. Again, it's a 90-day curriculum. So there's not enough time to go and show it all, but all of those exist inside of the application.
Could we see the screen that's right before that one that looks like with the visual that looks like a honeycomb?
Oh, this one. Okay. So, from the on-demand, we did put in job aids in there, and we did have some performance support where we asked them questions, and based on what they put in, we would tell them what approach they should use. If you're looking at the online, the web-based learning, we put in some memory games in there, but we developed everything as a micro learning. So each of those lessons where there's a link either on across the top or on the side, they're meant to be 5 to 7 minutes and no more than 10. The idea of having assessments, we do have adaptive learning. We didn't do any augmented reality. All of this runs on mobile. Though we didn't do it as apps, we're able to just run it through a player using HTML. We did have a search engine. We created a portal. We tied into the LMS. We created an authoring tool around HTML5. They weren't currently using XAPI or Learning Record Store. We actually were using API, not the X. We were sending all of this information directly to their human resources databases. So we weren't just passing SCORM data. We created a direct hook so that they would get all this item analysis data from their students. We did to the skills and certificates with those steps. We'd get them to a point where we'd say you're certified as, and might be on certain product lines, might be on application or a certain level of management or mentoring. And we took the learning strategy side, the whole curriculum planning and learning is the way we have organized it with the carousel and step by step through a chronology of the first 90 days was a complete change of the way they'd originally put their courseware together in more of a siloed approach. So quite a bit of these we had kind of put together. And we ended up doing it because they came to us with, we don't want an LMS. We want all this to run on our website. We want it to be uploadable to our content management system. We want to be able to edit content the same way we edit our website and have a front end where we can go in and change anything on the screen without having to know any tools. After building this for Mary Kay, the first one was complete over 2 years ago. This became a methodology that we're now using for a large number of our e-learning development projects, especially where our clients want to be able to make the changes and create themselves. A lot of the costs that go into developing e-learning is when you hire outside consultants and they have to go from A to Z and they have to become subject matter experts themselves. There's a lot of communication back and forth, questions and answers. You want to change something, might be 4 emails, 3 testings, like you finally think you got it right, and someone changes their mind, like legal. So we work with clients that are a bunch of lawyers, and we give them a spreadsheet or a Word document or a form and say, if you don't like the way this is stated, just change it. You hit a button, it's done. You're ready to go. So that has really helped with getting buy-in from a larger group of stakeholders within companies, because everything isn't just kind of black box controlled within the L&D department. Let me jump further forward. So just to get a little technical, is, as you saw, the content, the text, graphics, movies, and the logic is completely separated from the activity. So we have a module, let's say, for the role play, where you saw trying to sell Cindy. That is an activity we call a conversation model. That is in our code base once. So if we ever needed to make a change to the design, We change it once, and every single place where there is a role play or conversation, it gets updated immediately. And then all the content for it is sitting in either a spreadsheet or a Word document or some kind of a form-based structure. And so that can be changed. And you could do find and replaces and just hit one button and it's updated everywhere. So by separating this out, not only have we made it much easier to create, but extremely fast for making changes and updates. And then the idea of breaking them into very small little modules, and the idea of the carousel is really taken off and has been widely accepted and appreciated by the MLM audience of the Volunteer Army, because they really feel that it was designed for them. And they can take it a little bit at a time, and by relating each lesson to a specific skill or need or an event that they need to do, they feel that it's kind of like a little guide that's following along whenever they need it. And by pulling in the social components and letting them connect with others, and, all the motivational pieces. So there is as much, if not more, motivational content in our solution as there is practical practice and resource content. So if you have any more questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. I'm glad that you were asking questions as we went. So, but if there are any that we didn't get around to, please ask them now.
Simonson. I'm the marketing manager here at Allen Interactions. I'll be monitoring.
Thank you all for joining us on our webinar today. Again, this was recorded first, actually about a year ago, September 20th, 2018, with Steve Lee. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to email me at rpeterson@alleni.com. This webinar and others is on our Allen Interactions YouTube channel, as well as on the webinar page of the Allen Interactions website. So again, thank you for joining us, and look for other webinars at 12 Central Time on Wednesdays. Thank you very much. Have a great day.